Hello again, YouTube. It's Skylar. Welcome back to my face. And in today's video, we're going to be going over why gender is a spectrum. We're going to be talking about human psychology, a little bit of philosophy, and human nature. So if that all sounds great, please remember to subscribe to my channel. It really does help me. All right. So I wanted to start off by saying humans do not like ambiguity. Humans do not like uncertainty. What we find is that when people say things like male and female and that's it, I tend to think that what they're really trying to explain or what they're really trying to describe is I don't want there to be anything other than male and female, because it's easy to just think in terms of a binary rather than the intercomplexities of the nature between gender and sex and everything in between. So we really have to break things down and learn that life is not simple and clean. Things are inherently complex. Things are inherently confusing. And when people try to explain the world in simple terms, they're really only viewing things on a surface level analysis. Now, a surface level analysis of reality and the world around you may suffice for, the mundane, or, as you're initially approaching a subject or learning a new thing. But it's only the starting point. It's not the conclusion. And a good analogy for this would be like to understand the seasons of the earth: winter, spring, summer, and fall. Now, you could describe those seasons and you would have a pretty good understanding about what that means. But if you didn't know that seasons change from one to another, or you didn't know that the southern hemisphere of the planet is the opposite of the southern hemisphere of the planet, and that snowstorms can occur in the summertime, and you could have, conversely, unusual weather patterns in the wintertime. So it's not as clear-cut as it initially seems. A caterpillar is not a butterfly. That is correct. A butterfly is not a caterpillar, and a caterpillar is not a butterfly. But if you only look at that surface level analysis, you're only seeing the binary of this and that, without understanding the relationship, the underlying complexity of the metamorphosis cycle. And these are the things that I feel get left out of the discussion when people are trying to have a surface level analysis of gender. It's only male and female. Well, it's not. It's not. Because while people tend to think in that term, you can have this spectrum whereby you have people that are transgender, somebody that goes from one gender to the other, somebody that identifies as a gender that isn't congruent with their original birth sex marker. So you've already added a layer of complexity and depth just by having trans people exist. I would have some critics that would say something to the effect of, well, that's a choice, or that's a decision, or whatever. I'm not going to go into why that's wrong, but my counter argument to that is just to simply say, well, intersex people exist. You can have people that are born with XXY chromosomes, as an example, which automatically negates the whole idea that it's a binary. You have XX chromosomes and you have XY chromosomes, and that's it. Only two. Well, the fact that intersex people even exist at all already breaks down that binary. It already breaks down that surface level analysis. And so the deeper you go, the more complex it gets. The more complex it gets, the less people tend to understand. And when people don't understand something, their immediate reaction is, I either need to learn more or I need to reject the complexity. Humans are intrinsically built to despise ambiguity. And that comes from the fact of our evolution being that ambiguity in our earlier days when we were hunter-gatherer societies really wasn't a survival mechanism to second guess or not initially understand what was going on around them. For example, if a hunter-gatherer was out in the wild and saw something that might have resembled like a lion, well, having the ambiguity of, well, is it a lion? Is it not a lion? Could it have been this? Maybe it was a bush that was moving in the wind or something to that effect. That doesn't suit the immediate danger where the lion is going to attack the human. And that's not good. So the knee-jerk, the instinctual evolutionary action is, well, it's either a lion or it's not. So if it's a lion, I gotta go. If it's not a lion, I'm safe. The survival mechanism still exists to this day in human psychology. But the nature of our world and the intercomplexities of it are far greater than just survival instinct anymore. We don't live in a world where knee-jerk reactions sustain us or solve our problems in the way that they did back then. You didn't have to worry about a food being poisonous. It smelled rotten and it looked gross, so don't eat it. But that simple and clear cut doesn't apply to the modern day world because we live in a society in an ever-growing complexity where now we have philosophy, mathematics, science, and everything in our world just keeps getting deeper and deeper and more complex. It's not that the world is necessarily becoming more complex, more so that we're just starting to understand the complexities that were there. This comes back into like the Dunning-Kruger effect, whereby people initially have a sudden boost of confidence when they become acclimated to a new study, only to realize that they don't know as much as they think they do, and their confidence level goes down, but then slowly rises up over time as they become more aware and in depth into the analysis of the area of study. So when we talk about things like gender, that comes down to the understanding of this intercomplexity. Because by virtue of the fact that like intersex people or transgender into people exist, you've already broken down that surface level analysis. Now it's time to see how deep that rabbit hole goes. And a lot of people genuinely just don't want to go into depth on something because it's easier to think of terms in simple and clean, binary, this or that, and then move on with their day and go about their lives. But the farther you go, the more complex it gets. Because when does one thing stop being the other? When does a caterpillar stop being a caterpillar and become a butterfly? these are the type of questions that really are the basis of the study of philosophy. And so you have things like trans people, you have trans women and trans men. But now the surface level analysis of that breaks down too, because non-binary people exist. People that break the binary between male, female, man, woman. So now we've gone from physical sexual characteristic to gender, and now we realize that gender itself is a spectrum. And so it just keeps getting more and more complex, and you can keep going. And so that's why it really does take a lot of time and effort to research this stuff. And I feel like a lot of people, they just either don't have the time or they fear what they don't understand. Why would I want to take away the comfort of knowing that gender is only male and female when I could just reject everything else and just accept what I already know? Because you're not getting a better in-depth understanding of it at that point. You're only accepting that the surface level analysis is the greater reality. And so this is something that we're going to have to talk about over time. And I'll probably make an entire series on this because this subject is something that's too complex to even capsulize into one video. But I wanted to make this video today to try to demonstrate or to begin the conversation of the interdynamic play between things that appear on the surface to be simple, only to be stripped back like an onion as the layers of complexity increase over time and understanding. And so when it comes down to human nature, people just don't like things that they don't understand. They inherently don't like to feel like they're either wrong, they don't like to feel like they're stupid, and they don't like to feel like they don't know things. People know what they know, and people know what they don't know. But people don't know what they don't know. And that's the last part is what scares them. And so it's easier to shield yourself from the I don't know what I don't know by ignoring the possibility of even breaking that surface level analysis. And so you get to where we are now. But if people want to have a greater understanding of gender, if people want to open that door and start to really see the world in a more complex and beautiful way, they have to go beyond the surface level analysis. They have to see the interdynamic play between sex and gender, and the fact that gender is a spectrum, and that if even one layer further, that gender of itself is a social construct. And so if gender is a social construct, where does gender come from? And it just keeps going, which is why this video would probably be 5 hours long if I kept going. But for now, I'll just leave that with you. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Please leave a respectful comment. I prefer people to be as respectful as possible. And if you enjoy my content, once again, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this video for more amazing content. And until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.